Welcome back to You Can Do It. So we're doing the rebuild of the Husqvarna 357 XP. So we've stripped everything down, we've cleaned it up, we've done an exhaust mod, which is a video on that. We've done the squish test, removing the gasket, it's a video on that. So now we're going to rebuild it. Okay. So the last thing that I needed before I could start was a new piston ring. So this is running the original, piston and cylinder, which are gnarly and completely unmarked. So I'm basically just going to put a new ring in this and see how we get on. Okay, so the first thing to do is to replace this ring. So what we'll do is we'll take the ring off, but careful as you do it. I need two hands ready to do that. Okay, look, got the old ring off, and the points go down because there's a little pin. You can see the pin there at the top, a little pin there. So I'm going to put the new ring on. I'm going to put a little bit of oil with it. I've got some little just two-stroke oil with that. I'll just rub some oil around there, and then I'll put that ring back on. It's on there. Just make sure you've got make sure you've got it right on the pins there. Yeah. So you've got the biggest bit at the bottom. Yeah, that fits perfectly fine. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is put a little bit of oil on that, and then we're going to start sliding that on. But obviously, before I do that, I need to put some gasket sealer on there. So everybody has their own preferred thing, but I'm just going to use some Hylamar here. I'm going to try and put that on there, so definitely need two hands for that. So I'm just going to put some on there and on the cylinder. So let me set up my stand so that I can video and do it at the same time. Okay, look, here's the bottom of the cylinder. What we've got to be careful is that we don't get too much of this gasket sealer on there, because when we clamp it down tight, it's going to spill into these transfer ports. So we have to be careful here and on here. So we just need to put a really thin layer on. So I'm going to try and do that now. So here, so we get a little bit on there. I'm just going to. It's been in the sun this side of it. Not too much. A little bit along there. Now obviously we'll know whether this works or not, which is why I'm doing the pressure test after we've sealed all this up. I'm going to do the pressure test, which should tell me whether this is. I'll put a little bit on the piston, on the cylinder, sorry, even. Okay, I put a thin smear on there. It's a lot more than you think when you clamp it up. It squishes everywhere. So remember, when we put this together, you've got to make sure that you put your whole inlet thing in first. Right, now I'm going to put a little bit of oil. Now we'll put this together. Okay, she's in there. I've got the piston on, so now I'm going to locate that in place. There we are. And now we're going to clear up. I'm actually doing this on my desk, so one of those I've got. So now we're going to put 4 of those in. So the way that we're going to do that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then tighten that up. I've got a impact here. Just do it loosely. There we are, 1. And I'm going to leave this then for an hour, just for that gasket stuff to set. Plus I've got work to do as well. There we are. Now I'm going to go and get a little spanner to torque that up. I'll be back in a minute. There, doesn't really matter where you start. One. You've got to clamp down that gasket. There you are. Now, if we leave that for a little bit, you might find that if that gasket slowly moves, gets compressed, these might get a little bit loose, which is why you can come back and tighten them up. I'm just going to leave that for that, because basically you've compressed that gasket, and that's going to, over time, hopefully that might just squeeze in a little bit, in which case we can then come back and just recheck the torque on those. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this for about an hour, get on and do some work, and we'll be back later. Okay, we're back back for an hour. So some of you might notice that this bit here is broken off here, but that's not a problem once you've got your case on and everything. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we need to do a pressure test, and the main reason to do the pressure test is to check for any leaks in the system, but the main one is for your crankshaft seals as we're rebuilding it up, so we can check whether they're good or they need to be replaced. So we're checking for that, but while we're doing that, we're also checking for leaks here around the carburetor. Now the exhaust, now when it's running, that's not a problem around the exhaust, but for when it's running, you don't want to have a leak here on the spark plug, and also here on the decompression. Yeah, and of course the seal on this side. So we're checking for that, because if you've got a leak in any of those places, she can run lean, and you'll have problems tuning it, but also you run the risk at the long term of melting your saw. So we're going to start setting up to do the pressure test. So the way we do that is by blocking off the exhaust, and making sure everything else is tight, and then we can do a pressure test. And I'm going to do the pressure test on this one through the old decompression port. Okay, so I've got a little screw in there, so I can take that out and then put my Mitivac onto that, and then we can pressure the whole system, and then we can run a test. Okay, now I won't be doing the actual test on this desk because I need to spray a soapy water on it to check, but let's build it up. So first of all, we need to block this off. Now the best way to do that, I've got the carburetor assembly all bolted up together, and then basically I've got there a bit of rubber. Now that is actually just a bicycle inner tube, and then I use some a belt clip. When you want to put a hole for a belt, another hole for a belt, you use that pair of pliers that stamp a hole. So I used that, and then you've got 2 holes in there, and that'll fit over there. So when I screw that on, that will seal that one up. And then we do exactly the same for the exhaust. So I've got another piece of rubber there, and when I screw that up onto there, that is going to seal that. So again, that's a bigger piece of rubber, but just same as principle, with 2 holes from a punch in that. So once I've screwed that up, that will be sealed. That will be sealed. So the only way that air can get out is through there, the gasket surface there, and there, or worst case, and hope that's not the case, if you've got an air leak under here, but hopefully that won't be the case. But anyway, let's get cracking and we'll see it. So first of all, I'm going to bolt that up and that up. Okay, so I've screwed the carburetor on, that's all sealed, exhaust, that's all sealed. So we're actually ready to do a pressure test now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that port that I made there. So I'm going to unscrew my little 3mm sort of bolt. Unscrew that, and then I'm going to use that to connect my Mitivac and pressure the system. So let me just go and get my Mitivac, and I will be back. There's a video about how I've got rid of the decompression setup if you want. I've got my Mitivac here, and I've got a connection on there, so that I've got a little pipe there. So we'll put that on there. Okay, so she's pushed on there now. So now what we can do is we switch that to pressure, which is on now there. And what we can do now is we pump that up to about, what's that? It's nearly 7. I like to go just a little bit past 7, and then I can see the line there. It's about in the middle there. So look, that's holding nicely. That's holding lovely. So what we're doing now, we've basically pressurised the whole system. So that tells me that these seals, even though I got this saw used, those seals are good. So they've probably been replaced at some point, but they're good to go. So that's telling me that that's sealed, this, I mean, obviously when we're running they're not sealed, it's not an issue. And the spark plug, quite often you'll find your spark plug is leaking. So if that starts dropping, definitely make sure that's tight. Now what you do, if you have got a leak, is you get a bottle of washing up liquid mixed with water, and you just spray it around that area, and you'll see if you get a leak, this area, along your gasket lines there, and around here. So you turn this on its side, have that like that, and you get your washing up liquid and you spray it all around there, and you'll see if there's any air leaks, you'll get little bubbles coming up, and if that's the case, then you'll need to change that seal. Okay, you do the same. Do the same on the other side like that, and they're the main ones to really check, because once, if you know they're good, then you know, you don't have to take all this gubbins off again, and also along here. But we know from this, it's been left like that now for ages, and it's still exactly the same. So she's sealed. So we can now start rebuilding this up. Excuse me, my daughter's just gone by with her audiobook. So now we can start building this right up now. So I need to take obviously remember to take these off and take the rubbers out. Because it's quite easy to forget that. So I'm going to now take these and these off, and then we'll start rebuilding it up further. Stay with us. Okay, so we've taken those off, and they're the rubbers that we got there. I put them in a little bag because they're quite, keep them for next time I need to do a test. Now I've got my little screw there, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of gasket sealer on the screw there, and then I'll screw that up, and that'll be nice and tight. Okay, that's in there nice and tight. Use my little thing. We're good to go. So now we can start putting things back together again. So what we'll probably start on is this side. So I'll put the flywheel on and this little plastic thing here. So let me go away and do that. Okay, so I'll go and get the flywheel. So we've got the old flywheel all nice and clean. It's lovely when you're putting these things back and they're all nice and clean. So that fits in there like that. I'll put this on here. As you're doing this up, remember that these will get in the way. So if you try and just tighten that up, you'll bend them. If you don't get that one out of the way and that one out of the way, it's a bit of a fiddly job. There we are, past that point there. So now what I'll do, I've got an impact driver, yeah, with a 13mm on the end. I'll do that. Now what I'm going to do is, I need two hands for that, because I need to hold that while I impact it on. If you haven't got an impact driver, you can put something down here against there to rest it. But if you do that, make sure you use one of these ones that's bridged here. So she's really strong. You don't want to be breaking one of those off. Anyway, let me just tighten that up. And you can treat yourself now if you want, just to see if it's got up the compression. Yeah, that's got some nice one. Yeah, she's got some nice compression, but she's got a new ring on it, so that's good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the plastic, there's a little plastic cover there, which I'll put that on, and then we'll start to put that on there, and then this side is basically done apart from the starter cover. Okay, let me do that. Before I put all that off, I'll have cables here and everything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this plate on here. So then we can put the carburettor on, because these are open obviously, and you don't want to get any rubbish and junk in there. So I'll put the carb on, and then she's safe there. So let me put this. There's a little plastic plate there. If I get one of my bags of bits, it's in there. So I'll take that out, and we'll start putting it to get in there. And I've just got that in. So if it won't just, so you have to twist it a little bit to get it down through here, because it's quite wide. So now there's 4 bolts here. Here and here, which I will. One of them's behind here, so you have to leave that bit to get that bolt in there. So I'll just put that's in there. That I couldn't find the other 2 bolts; they weren't in the packet, so they must be in another packet. So much for my organisation. Now we could even look at putting in the carburettor, just so that we know that that's all going to be sealed up and safe. So let's get the carb. Okay, so we'll do this assembly. Make sure you've got your gasket on there. Look. Yeah, make sure that port there is clear, because that's actually a vent for your carb, which comes out of here. So then we can put these 2 together, and then we can slide them on and bolt them here. So I'll clip that in. We need to clip the choke into there. So I'll just clip that in. Okay, look, she's all in there now. A couple of little things to be careful of. Make sure you get this here in the rubbers, in this little rubber thing on both sides. And remember, this mount here is plastic, so don't go torquing them up. But they stick out a couple of millimeters. Look, you can see the bolt there. They stick out on both sides. They stick out about a couple of millimeters. So that's good to go. So I'm actually going to just put the filter on the top of that, and that's all sealed up. There we are. So now start looking at start going back and putting this on, and we'll have to get the plastic thing on there, get the cables through up here to here. So let me try and do that now. Okay, that's all nice and clean, so we'll put that in there. That fits quite nicely in there, look. Put there, put that in. I'll do that up. That was absolutely filthy when I stripped this down. It's all covered in oil. So I reckon when we do the other side, which is the oil pump, so I reckon I need to check that really carefully. But I'll need to get my spanner on there. Okay, so now we're going to put on the nice clean coil. Now, the way to do this is you need to go get yourself a business card. So let's go and get yourselves a business card. We need to take these out, getting ready to put it in. But go and get yourself a business card. Back with a credit card. Not credit card, a business card. So we put that in there. Make sure before you you've got your the point there. So you need to spin that round so that you've got your there. Put that in, and then put that there, because that'll try and, it's a magnet, so it'll try and stick to it. And I've just taken that lead off just to make it a bit easier. So while it's in there, it's trapped between there. The magnet's pulled it together, so we can now just tighten these up. So I'll just tighten them up. So they're nice and tight. So you should be able to pull that out. Ooh, that's a tight one. So I'll just need to get that out. Look, and that gives you the perfect. It's difficult to video. There, that's out. That'll give you the. So just turn it a little bit, and then you pull your card out. Right. So I'm now going to put this back on, and I'll go and get the plastic cover for there. Just sort of put all that up together, and then that's pretty much done. Okay. So now we get those cables and we flip them through there, and we won't connect them up yet because I'm just going to try and I've got the plastic cover here, and we'll put that and get that fitted up underneath there, and then we'll sort those cables out there. So I'll do that now. Okay, so they're all clipped in there nicely, and that's it. So I'm actually going to put an extra piece of rubber or plastic around this tube, this here, because that's got a bit of a shot. Someone's obviously dropped something on it. That's quite sharp there, so I want to put something around there just to protect that so it doesn't cut through in vibrations. Okay, so I've clipped that one on there, and we've put the one in there. Now, this system, I don't particularly like it very much, because you do that thing there clips, but this can actually come out. Now the way you stop that coming out is if you open up the little eyes in there, so that when you push it in it's hard. But I'm actually like to be double safe, so I'm going to put little tiny little zip tie around there and hold that to there. So that just means that this can never come out, because if that vibrates out, you can't turn your saw off, which in an emergency is a big problem. So I'm going to go and get a zip tie, and you'll see where I'll put it, and that just guarantees that plug can't come out. Okay, you see I just put a little zip tie around that and that, so that definitely can't come off. And I'll just get some clips, look, clip that off. So that still works fine. But there's just no way that can come out now, so you can always turn it off. So that's a little bit of a mod I do. Just coming back to that, I think that I must have bust that because it fell off the bench, and I reckon that's what I've bust that. So I need to, it's my problem, I need to sort that out. So I'm going to cover that again now with a bit of amalgamation tape. I had a much better idea. I used a little zip tied that in there, and then I've actually used the end of the zip tie as a way to push that away, so that isn't going anywhere. That's fine. That's not even touching that now, so that's going to be fine. Okay, so now what we can do is go over to the other side. Well, actually, what I'll do is I will put the exhaust on, so then the whole thing is sealed up and I can't get any rubbish in there. So with the exhaust, you've got that plate, then got the gasket, and then you've got your exhaust. So there's nothing there. There's no gasket on that side. So that goes towards the engine like that. So let me do that now. Okay, that's up there. It's not. I haven't done it super tight because we've got to put the bracket on there. And for anyone who's watched this is my modified exhaust. It's got a nice big hole there. I've had to make some spaces for there, so I just want to make sure when I connect it all up there, it all fits. So I've done that fairly loosely. Right. So now that means is we can go over to this side. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start doing the oil pump side of things. And as you can see, I've plugged this, but it's still dripping a little bit of oil. So when I got this saw was completely filthy with oil. So I want to take particular care that the oil pump and everything is sealed up. So let me go and get the bag for the bits for that. Okay, I've got my bag of bits that I took from there. So let me set this up and we'll start looking at putting this back. Okay, so this is my wedge, which I'll take this out now. It's coming out. So that's a wedge I just made to put in there to stop all crap going down inside my oil tank or whatever. So this now needs to go back in there. Now I'm tempted to actually try and find an O-ring that will go up behind there to put more pressure, just in case that was actually in fact leaking. So let me try and go and see if I can find a little O-ring that will fit behind that. Okay, you see there, I've put that in. I've put that in there. So now we can put the pump. Put that pump back in. Now there was I put a tiny little O-ring behind that pipe that goes into the oil tank. So that will just push that up. That pushes that forward a little bit, which just puts a little bit more pressure. And then what I've done here, I've just taken a little tiny bit of plastic from a lid of just from an ice cream lid. I've just cut a little tiny thin slither that goes in there. And what that's for is that's going to push. We put this back in here now, right? But that will push that rubber a little bit further forward. I'll push it out so that will have more pressure against the bar, because I'm going to put onto here, although it's a small bar mount, I'm going to put a large bar on it, and I've got a whole video about that. But I want that pushed out a little bit more, just so that puts a bit more pressure onto the bar, and it will seal it up. And you'll see why if you watch that other video. But anyway, so now we can start putting this plate back on and screw this back up. First of all, I think I've put a screw in there. I'll put that screw in now, and then we've got one screw and one screw. Last but not least, before I do that, you just need to put this little baby back in here. There we are. That's the adjuster for the bar. So that's all set in there. So now I can take this plate, put it on, but before I do that, look, I need to put that bolt in there and secure that. That's bolted up there tight, you see, and that's worked a treat. So that actually protrudes just a little bit more than normal, which means when I bolt the bar on, it's going to have a little bit more pressure on there, which is great. That's what I need. So that's all good. So now what we need to do, you've got to get my bag of bits for the thing. We've got to put this on, which is your drive for your oil pump. Yeah. So I'm going to have to replace that oil pump at some point soon, because it's actually quite worn. Not the pump's all right, but these down there, I don't think you can see down there, but they're very thin. Very thin. So I just need to get a new one of those at some point, but not right this second. So that fits in there, and that then drives the pump. Yep. So now this is a section. This is onto something that a lot of people don't do. You see, there's a hole there that goes down there, and then it comes out there. And what that is to do is to oil your roller bearing here. Because otherwise, there's no other way oil will get onto that. So you've got to remember to keep pumping oil into here, but with a grease gun, and otherwise you'll destroy your bearing, heat that up, and then this thing will all fail. So anyway, the next thing to do is to put the clutch on. It's a clutch. Now I've completely serviced that clutch and put all new springs in it, and they're the most expensive. They're the most expensive springs for some reason. They're like about seven euros each over here, because one of them had bust, and I've got 2 spares. I'm going to keep 2 spares in case another one busts, because they're just so bloody expensive, and I actually went for the original stuff. I'll try to keep things, yeah. There's the spring, there's the one that broke, so I replaced all three. Before we put that clutch on, you just got your clutch. We then need to put our drive on and make sure it's the right drive. Whatever chain you're going to put on, but this is the one that came off it, it's got to be the right one for you. Okay, so I've got a grease gun here, look. Put the grease gun on the end. Ah, look, grease has started to come out of the end there. So we now know that that's all clean and clear. So what I can do now, I have got a brand new bearing to stick on there. So I can stick that on there and then we can put this all together. So let me do that. Now a lot of people never do this, they never grease that up. So I've put that on and I've turned it a few times and greased that up. And the reason that you can tell that is because when you take all the clutch and everything off, it's always bone dry. That bearing's absolutely bone dry. So you've got to keep that greased regularly. Every time you do a day's work, just make sure before you start you've pumped a bit of grease down there and oiled that up. Well, we can put, I've got the power mate on there. Should be able to put that on there. There we are. There we are, and that's in. Just feel that fit in that thing there. So that's good. So now all we need to do is just put this on. Now, before I'm going to imagine that you haven't done one of these before or anything. So what we're going to do now, this is a left-hand thread, so you turn it the other way to do it. Now what I'm going to quickly do is go to the manual and just check that we've got everything on there that we should do. Okay, that's on there, nice. I just had to tighten that up a little, one more notch on the thing there. There's a little nick in the wheel, and you put your string in there so you can turn it around one more time, and it hasn't actually changed the length. And then it's got a bit more force on it because it was hanging loose. So that's a lot better. Okay, so now actually we could actually do a little compression test to see how that new piston ring is working. I did one with the other one and it was about 145, which isn't bad, but I've just put the new one in and we'll see what that pumps up. Now we'll put it on the body. So here's the body, all cleaned up, everything good. So we put that on. Now, before we can do that, we need to turn this over. Yeah. And put one here. And just put on this one here. We've got the other one here to do, so we'll have to take that cover off, but I wanted to put that on just to test the compression, which I couldn't get because it was too hard to pull with it. So this thing is, I have to put it in the frame. Okay, so next we'll just put this one in here. Let me just do that. Okay, so now that's on there now, look. So now we need to then put both these pipes here through this hole here. Now I've put those two little screws in there just so that I don't get any fuel or smells and things. So I'll take those out. These were actually the two screws that went in here and here. So I'll do it. Yeah, hang on. Yeah.
You're not allowed to be late.
I'm not going to be late. Okay, I'm going to go in a minute then.
Yes,
Okay.
you are going to be.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to just take those two out, thread those through there, and then we can mount this on. Okay, there's a little spigot there. You can see there. A little spigot there. That needs to go in that hole, in that slot there. So I just have to take that back out again to get that in. So that goes in there like that. And you can put this in here. Put your rubber in. There we are. So put that in there, and then I can screw that in, and so let me just screw that back in. Okay, so we just push the rubber from that one in there. So that's all that rubber's in there. So now I can take this cover off, and we can put that one in. And when that's in firm, then I can put this screw back in here, and the same on the other side. So let me take the starter cover off. Okay, I have to just take that cover off and just lift that up because the bolt goes down in there. Yeah, and then we can just screw that up. And we've got to make sure it locates into that rubber, and then we screw it up tight. I just use a long thing in there, so that's done. That can go back, and now we can just put the cover back on. So let me just put the cover back on there For those of you who haven't done this before, make sure you pull that to make sure that it's actually locked in inside there, otherwise you'll find you can't get this on properly. You screw it in tight, and what you've done is you've bound it tight up inside there. So make sure you can just pull that, and it turns the engine over, it does, and then you can put those four in. Okay, put the last one in here. So just screw this one in. Engine and everything is on the handle and mounted. There we are. Right, good to go. So she's now mounted properly, so we can now, so that's on. Right, so we're getting really close now, really close to takeoff. Okay, so now what we have to do is start building up the handle for this. We'll have to actually put the handle on here, and then we're getting very, very, very close, and I'll have to finish off the exhaust. We'll finish the exhaust. Okay, so now we've connected up the fuel line and vent. Make sure you get them the right way around, otherwise you won't get any fuel into your carburetor. Yeah, so one of these goes to the vent and one of them goes to the fuel line. So the fuel line is the first one through that hole, and the vent is the second one. Okay, now I've just screwed the last those two screws which I had actually stuck in the end of those pipes. They're in there. All right, now we can maybe put in the bellows here and the little fuel rod, throttle rod. I do actually need some new bellows, so anyway, for the sake of this video I'll put the old ones back in, because the new ones haven't arrived yet. Okay, so I now just put the bellows down, and you put your rod in, and to get that in, you basically have it that position, and it just slots in easy, and that little spring clips over the top of it. So you've got that in there now. So now I can put the air filter back on, clip that up. Now we'll start putting this exhaust on, which fits there. But as I say, because I've modified the exhaust, look, we've got a space there, so I've made up some little brackets there that will go in there. Also on this one, you've got that which goes on with the exhaust. So I'll have to put all that on now. So let me screw that up. So that's done. We've put that on. That's all tight. That's all done there, and I'll just re-tighten up those there. So we're getting very close now. So now what we'll probably do is start putting the handle on here. So let me go and actually one last thing. I'll put this last bracket. Excuse me. Put this last bracket on in here. Spring. Excuse me. That's my daughter doing her German at the moment. So we can screw that in there. So I'll screw that up tight, and that's ready for the handle. Okay, now we're doing the handle. So with the handle, you put that piece in first, and you put that bit there, and then on the other side here, you've got a little washer which you put there. Basically, I just stick a bit of grease on it, and when it stays there. Then what we have to do is get the handle on here, and we push that in across there, but I need two hands for that, and I'll put the bolt in. Okay, that's in. The bolts are in both sides and tight. Look, it's just a little spring there just to make sure it sort of returns. So that works well. So now we can actually look at putting the handle on and the side case. Okay, put the handle on. Now the long ones, the 3 long bolts go there, and the 2 short ones go underneath. So the handle's on now. So we've just got the side cover, and then she's basically ready to just fire up and see if she runs. I don't even need to put the side cover on, to be honest, but I'm going to put it on just so. And then, of course, I've got another video where we're going to mount a long bar onto a large mount bar on it. This is a 24-inch bar going on here because it's going to have enough power to pull that. So let me just put the side cover on. Okay, one thing I forgot to put the little thing on, so that needs to go on that bottom one there. So I'm going to have to quickly take that, undo those 3 there, and I'll pop that back on. Okay, now the last thing is we'll put the clips, push the clips in here. Now this one's actually broken, so I need to get a new one for those 2. But that fits in, look. So you push that clip in there, and then she's ready to go. So I've put my 3 clips in, Okay, they're all on. So all's left to do is put this cover back on and fill it up with a bit of fuel and try and give it a start. Now, there's one thing that I didn't show on the video is actually when you put the carburetor together, there was a little blue ring that needed to go on the inlet of the carb, which I found that and I put that back. I had to take it off and put that back on, but I didn't show it on the video. So just remember that there's a little in the inlet to the rubber inlet. There's a little ring that goes in there just so it doesn't crush in when you clamp it up. But that's in there. Yeah, hang on a second. I'll be there in a second. So now all that's left to do is fill that up with a bit of fuel, and let's see if the old girl will start. It's got very high compression because I can barely pull it over, so I don't quite know what I'm going to do there. We're outside now. Luckily I've got a little bit of fuel left, so I'm going to put some fuel in there and we'll see how this girl starts up. Now, because the carburetor and the fuel lines are all completely empty of fuel, I'm going to take this off. Unless she's got really high compression, I'm going to just take the top off. And that clip comes off because it's broken. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to whip the plug out, and then I'm going to pull her over a few times just to prime up that whole system so I'm not fighting the compression. So I'll just make life a little bit easier. So I'll pull that over now. I need to put the camera down, but I'll pull that over a few times and then I'll put the plug back in and we'll try and start it. Okay, let's try and start her up. Pull her out. Let's give her a pull. There we are, push her in. That's the sound of the new exhaust. Test it like that.
At the other door.
Okay, alright, I'll come in the other side of the door. Okay guys, so that is the sound of the new exhaust. That sounds beautiful. It picks up really well. I mean, I haven't fully tuned it for cutting wood yet, but that, as you can hear, it starts up. I mean, that's been sitting on the desk for about a week, yeah, and it started up pretty much straight away. So all good. Look at the nice new exhaust there, and that's the rebuild of the 357. Now I'm going to have a video coming out of actually cutting with this with a 24-inch bar, but that'll come out once I get a chance to go and cut with it. But this is a lovely saw, really light, and it's been pepped now, so it's got a lot more power. But just to see it start once more time, pull it on. That's how it should tick over, like that, check it like that. But it's got, look, so it's got some good compression, because look, there we are. So that was running nearly 180 psi on the first rebuild. So we'll test that after I've cut some wood. But anyway, you can do it. Hope this video has helped, or this series of videos have helped. If you like the channel, subscribe. If you've got any questions or anything or comments, send me a comment. You can do it.